So today we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahapurana, Canto 3, Chapter 29, beginning with the text 21. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu Buddhatmavastitah sada Tamavagyaya mamartya Kuruter chavidambanam Aham sarveshu bhuteshu Bhutatmavastitah sada Tamavagyaya mamartya Kuruter chavidambanam. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vijnana Goswami. I am present in every living entity as the Super Soul. If someone neglects or disregards that Super Soul everywhere and engages himself in the worship of the deity in the temple, that is simply an imitation. Purport. In purified consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one sees the presence of Krishna everywhere. If therefore one only engages in the deity worship in the temple and does not consider other living entities, then he is in the lowest grade of devotional service. One who worships the deity in the temple and does not show respect to other devotees is a devotee on the material platform, in the lowest stage of devotional service. A devotee should try to understand everything in relationship with Krishna and try to serve everything in that spirit. To serve everything means to engage everything in the service of Krishna. If a person is innocent and does not know his relationship with Krishna, an advanced devotee should try to engage him in the service of Krishna. One who is advanced in Krishna consciousness can engage not only the living entities, but everything in the service of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatmavastitah sada tamavagyaya mamartyah kurute chavidambanam. I am present in every living entity as the Super Soul. If someone neglects or disregards that Super Soul everywhere and engages himself in the worship of the deity in the temple, that is simply an imitation. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pananebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ajanulambit Bhujo Kanakavadatu Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Daksha Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna Madharo Yantah Pravishya Mama Vachim Imam Prasuptam Sanjeevayada Kila Shakti Darach Svadamna Anyamscha Hasta Charana Shravana Dvagadim Pranannamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. Hare Krishna. So, with your permission and blessings, I will try to say something about this verse and a few other verses from this chapter. This chapter entitled Explanation of Devotional Service is very important for us as practicing devotees, because in this chapter Lord Kapila Dev practically explains everything we need to know about the devotional service and how to achieve the ultimate success in this process. We all know that the ultimate success in this process is the complete satisfaction of the heart. From the very beginning, this was declared by Srila Sutta Goswami when he says, Yayatma suprasidati, ahaituki prasidata yayatma suprasidati, savai pumsah parodharmo. So he said, this is the Yato Bhakti Radokshaje, this is the highest dharma of the living entity. Why? Because it brings the complete, total, absolute satisfaction to the heart. And this is the goal of all human endeavors. Whether we know it or don't know it, whether we understand it or not understand it, whether we admit it or not, we're all looking for happiness. And that's the only goal. There is no other goals. We need to be happy, and moreover, we need to be happy completely, absolutely, without any tinge of unhappiness. This is the goal of all our endeavors. And devotional service is for this goal. You know, sometimes we say, we don't need this happiness. I'm sorry to say this, we do. And that's the reason why we are engaged in devotional service. And there is nothing wrong in this reason, because this is the goal of life. And goal of life, this is the beginning of the analysis in Bhakti Sandarbha, where, not Bhakti Sandarbha, Priti Sandarbha, where Srila Jiva Goswami says that the only thing which can be called as a goal of life is something which brings you happiness. If something doesn't bring you happiness, it's not a goal of life. So the goal of all our endeavors is to become happy, and the Srimad Bhagavatam reveals this secret that the only way to become completely happy, not just, second-class happiness, third-class happiness, fourth-class happiness, or whatever, if we want to achieve the first class happiness, the way to achieve it is the only one. Yatma suprasidati, when you're completely, or samprasidati, in some readings of Srimad Bhagavatam it is said samprasidati. Samprasidati means complete, total satisfaction without even tinge of unhappiness. So that's the goal, and we know the means of this is the pure devotional service. But at the same time, we also know that somehow or other, in our case, it doesn't work. We may not be sure whether it works with others. We can only... that somehow or other, this promised complete happiness doesn't come. I try and try and try and try and try and try. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, and Hare Hare, and there is no result. And I even try not to come to the deity and not to ask anything. Please don't give me anything. Just give me complete happiness. I don't mind. But still it doesn't work. Still, somehow or other, there is something which doesn't really work. And in this connection, or to explain this, Lord Kapila Dev gives his explanation in this particular chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 29th chapter, which is extremely, again, important for all of us to understand thoroughly. Not just superficially, but thoroughly. Because this is the answer of Lord Kapila Dev on the question of Mother Devahuti, where she says, please do explain to me how I can go beyond the modes of material nature, and how I can ultimately achieve this natural transcendental position which is beyond the influence of binding, enslaving influence of the modes of material nature. And Lord Kapila Dev, he starts, I will give a short overview of this chapter without going into details, even though all the details in this chapter are extremely important. But initially, Lord Kapila Dev, in just 3 verses, explains that when we start our devotional service, inevitably we start our devotional service in the modes of material nature. And because there is nothing else we can do. We cannot all of a sudden jump on a transcendental platform. So when we perform our devotional service, this devotional service is faulty. It's not without, it's not perfect because we perform it, whether we understand it or not, with ulterior motivations. If we are predominantly in a mode of tamagun, then we perform the emotional service very enthusiastically when we hear that by devotional service you can achieve everything, but our motivation is just to get back to somebody. And I've seen it, especially with the Brahmanas. They sometimes take their Brahmin thread and, now I will cut my Brahmin thread and curse you. We all know by chanting mantras one becomes very powerful, and the curses also become very powerful. So that may be the motivation. This is what Lord Kapila Dev says, that you want to inflict pain to some other living entities. Of course, we're all pure devotees. It doesn't refer to us, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes it does happen. Sometimes we look at somebody and we just want to use our devotional tejas and shakti that something should go wrong with his life. And then, he says, if you are in Rajagun, then your motivation may be to show how great you are and to show that you are better than anyone else and to get some fame. Sometimes it may happen, One devotee told me that, before I became a devotee, I wanted to be a great sportsman, and didn't work. Then I wanted to become a great military man. Didn't work either. And then finally I wanted to become a great devotee. And that worked. So that's how it goes. This is how our mind works. We even unconsciously or subconsciously carry our motivation into the sphere of devotional service without even noticing that this is something wrong with it. Why? Because our mind is under the influence of the material nature. So Lord Kapila Dev says that you can perform your devotional service judging through the motivation in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance. You can perform your devotional service in the mode of sattva. When we just want liberation. And there's nothing wrong with it. I want to go back home, back to Godhead. Yeah, this is my main motivation. And ultimately, I don't want to go back home, back to Godhead. I just want to get rid of my sufferings. Because the weather in the spiritual world is much better than in England. Sun is always shining, and there is not this miserable thing. I'm not speaking about Russia even, So sometimes people wonder why there are so many Russian devotees, because the life is so miserable there. And the weather is so bad. So, we may have this motivation without even noticing it, that we ultimately, because it's so subtle, the distinction between the sattvic motivation and spiritual motivation is very subtle. And sometimes we very easily can mix these motivations. So Lord Kapila Dev explains this, and then he explains the pure devotional service. He explains the characteristic or lakshana of pure devotional service, and he says that when one on the stage of pure devotional service, immediately when one hears about the Lord, his heart is there with the Lord. And he says nothing can stop the stream of our consciousness towards the Lord. If we are on the stage of pure devotional service, there is no stoppage, as much as Ganga cannot be stopped in its or in her passage towards the sea. Nothing can stop Ganga. In the same way, the consciousness of a pure devotee becomes so strong and so there is no impediments on this path. It just carries your consciousness towards the Lord immediately. You just hear Krishna and that's it. You are transported out of this world. You are not in this world anymore. You are with Krishna. Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai. Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. And he says this is the pure devotional service, the stage of pure devotional service, when even the slightest indication or slightest mention of Krishna completely, makes you transcendental to this world. You forget about this world altogether. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is this beautiful story about Murari Gupta, who was the practitioner in Saddam Hussein's. Saddam Hussein. Almost like this. And the Nawab of Bengal, Hussein Shah. And then, once he came to the court of Shah of Bengal, and he saw that somebody is fanning him with the peacock feather, with the peacock fan. And immediately he lost his consciousness. He just completely forgot himself and forgot this world. Why? Because he just saw this peacock feather. Somehow or other we don't faint when we see that, somebody is fanning Krishna with peacock feather. What to speak about fainting when we see Krishna himself? He just remembered, the slightest indication about Krishna completely brought him into another plane of consciousness, in another realm of consciousness. And to prove that this is the highest state of consciousness, this consciousness which is the characteristic which he gives, the pure devotional service, the state of consciousness is the highest. Lord Kapila Dev gives an example. He says, the proof of this, that this is the highest, is that such a devotee, even when he is offered liberations, 4 kinds of liberations, 5 kinds of liberations, he just rejects it. He says, I don't need it. Somebody comes to you and says, would you like to go to the spiritual world? And you say, no, I don't need it. I'm happy here. It doesn't matter for me whether I'm there or here. I'm already happy. There is nothing I can achieve more than I already have. So when somebody offers to you this liberation, you reject it. And this is to show, to indicate how elevated state of consciousness it is. You don't need anything else. What to speak about, trivial material happiness. Even the spiritual happiness you don't need, because you already have everything which you need. And then, of course, Lord Kapila Dev, explaining that this is the highest state of consciousness, he gives in just a few verses, I believe it's 4 verses. In the 4 verses, he gives a complete sadhana. We may come to these verses tomorrow when we will speak about the cure of the disease. In just a few verses, he gives a very beautiful delineation of sadhana. It's very interesting how he describes what one is supposed to do or should do to achieve this state of consciousness. And again, it's a very important topic, but we will not touch this topic in details, at least today. Maybe tomorrow, let's see how it works. Because we have to come to our main topic today. He says in the previous verse, we're coming close to the topic of this verse, or to the subject matter of this verse, and 3 next verses. Oh, more than 3, but anyway. In the previous verse, drawing the line, making the conclusion of this description or delineation of sadhana, which is supposed to bring us to the state of pure devotional service, he again more or less repeats the same thing. But it's very interesting how he does it. Let's read this previous verse. Yadhavataratho granam avrinkte ganda ashayat evam yogaratam cheta atmanam avikariyat. So in this 20th verse, the previous verse, Lord Kapila Dev says that if you achieve this state of pure devotional service through the practice or through the sadhana, which was described by him before, then what happens with you? He says that as the chariot of air carries an aroma from its source and immediately catches the sense of smell, similarly, one who constantly engages in devotional service in Krishna consciousness can catch the Supreme Soul who is equally present everywhere. So it's very interesting. Again, he explains this characteristic of the consciousness which achieved this elevated state of pure devotional service, he says that, he gives the example, the simile. He says, when you pass by a blooming tree with very fragrant flowers, you just pass by and the aroma immediately reaches your nose without any endeavor, without any additional endeavor to smell. The smell comes into your nose automatically. And he says, in the same way, without any endeavor, it's very interesting. He says, in the same way, without any endeavor, the pure devotional service, which is, not the pure devotional service, any activity in devotional service, like chanting or hearing or worshipping the deity or whatever activity of devotional service which are described by Prahlad Maharaj, like an air carries the aroma towards the nose. In the same way, effortlessly, the activity of devotional service, such as hearing about the Lord or chanting of His holy name, brings your soul and totally, completely, in a very natural way, brings your soul towards God. So he says, this is what happens when you reach this state of consciousness. Then your soul is like this, very effortlessly is reaching God beyond the modes of material nature. When your consciousness, listen, because it's very important, what is important in this simile. When your consciousness reaches a certain stage, then the activities in devotional service obtain this power of carrying your consciousness or your soul, your Atma, towards the Lord without any endeavor. You don't endeavor yourself to be near the Lord. The devotional service becomes powerful in itself. In our condition, in our conditioned state of mind or state of heart, for us to remember about the Lord, it's impossible task. We chant His holy name, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare, Hare. No hope. We try to concentrate on this holy name, but our mind is just all over the universe. Everywhere, not with the Lord. We don't remember about the Lord when we don't chant His holy name. This is not so amazing, but the most amazing thing is that we especially don't remember about Him when we chant His holy name. We completely, totally forget about Him. So, listen, this is very important, because what is being described here is that the different quality of devotion, of the activity in devotional service, it becomes totally, the power becomes more. Now we perform devotional service, it has no power. It just doesn't change anything. So by stating this, this is the previous verse, stating this, that basically what is important, and it looks like initially, from the initial look, it looks like a catch-22. It's a vicious circle. We need to achieve a certain stage of consciousness. Only on this stage of consciousness we are brought immediately, automatically, effortlessly to the Lord, but at the same time we are not in this stage, and because we are not in this stage, we will never achieve this stage. Something like this. It's a typical question. Superficially it looks like catch-22. But there is a beautiful solution which Lord Kapila Dev will give, but now we will come to the problem. He says that if your consciousness is not on this stage, if you are not yet on this stage, then your devotional service, the activities of your devotional service are blocked. And he gives the reason why the blockage comes. He says in this verse which we read, Aham sarveshu bhutishu bhutatma vastitah sada tam avagyaya mam martyah kurute archa vidambanam. He says that, but if you don't understand that I am present in everyone's heart, and because of this, you manifest what is called avagya. And we will explain. This is the whole seminar came from basically little explanation which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives while commenting on this verse. Srila Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sandarbha actually confirms this as well. When we read this verse and three next verses, how Srila Prabhupada explains them, it doesn't come out so clearly. But what seems like that Lord Kapila Dev, without any reason, repeats the same thing 4 times. And of course, one can always say that there is a serious reason he wants to stress. It's a rule in poetics, in Sahitya Shastra. It says, if you want to stress something, you repeat it at least 3 times. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nameva Kevalam. Kalau Nastieva, 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 Gatiranyatha. So it's not something redundant. You want to carry the point. So the point here, and we can also say like this, the point here he repeats 4 times the same thing. He says, you will never achieve anything in your devotional service. You will never achieve anything in your devotional service. You will never achieve anything in your devotional service. You will never achieve anything in your devotional service unless you understand that the Lord is present in everyone's heart, in the heart of every living entity, and you respect every living entity. So basically this is what is being repeated. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sandarbha as well, while commenting on these verses, says that ultimately, Lord Kapila Dev here explains 4 stages of manifestation of our original disease of envy. The problem we are dealing with is this disease of envy. Because of this envious nature, which we all have, our devotional service, even when we start this devotional service with good intentions, does not have the powerful effects which are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Lord Kapila Dev now is trying to explain how this disease manifests in our heart. And that's very important for us to know, because it starts very innocently. This particular verse, as much as cancer, the deadly disease of cancer, has 4 stages. And in initial stages of cancer, you can easily kind of control it or bring it down if you're lucky. If you initially catch in the beginning stages of cancer, if you catch this disease, you can really cure the disease. In the same way, Lord Kapiladev explains that there is a very slight manifestation of envy in the beginning. And here he says that this slight manifestation of envy towards other living entities, he calls avagya. Avagyaya, here it's in the case of, how you say this, in instrumental case. Tam avagyaya. He says that the first thing, and in these 4 verses, series of 4 verses, he gives the 4 stages of manifestation of this original disease. He gives the 4 corresponding results which we get if we manifest this disease, progressively more and more severe. So he says here, avagya. Avagya, the second stage is upeksha, the third stage is dvesha, and the 4th stage is avamani or ninda. So this is the 4 manifestations of, or stages of manifestation. And he says that initially avagya means basically ava, the prefix ava means down, like in the word avatar. Avatar means somebody who comes from the higher plane to the lower plane to save us. He's coming. The Lord is coming. Avatar. So in the same way, or avaduta. Avaduta means you give up your, taking shower in the morning. Literally, the one who is avaduta. Duta means to shower, to clean yourself, and avaduta is somebody who is really unclean. I mean, avaduta, the one who is beyond all these rules and regulations. So in the same way, avagya, gya we all know what gya means. Gya means to know. Avagya means to know from, or to look at somebody, or to know somebody, or to see somebody from little above. You just look at somebody and you see, he's just, I am superior than him. This is this kind of haughtiness, or how you say this, this little pride, when we look little down, very innocently, we look somebody and says, of course I'm better than you. And very quickly our mind will give us 108 reasons why I'm better than you. Of course I'm better. I'm younger or I'm older. It doesn't matter. It depends. I'm more beautiful. I'm more knowledgeable. I'm this. I'm that. And I'm chanting. I'm engaging in devotional service in a much better way, or whatever it is. So this avagya, this attitude, very important attitude, which is very innocent in one sense, we're not doing anything, we're not saying anything, we just look little down. Not even so much down, Poor fellow. With compassion. Who he thinks he is. So Lord Kapiladev says, very interestingly, he says that somebody who is worshipping me, kurute archa, he's doing this archa, he's worshipping me, but he at the same time does not appreciate that I am in the heart of this living entity and does not show the respect for him. I will say about the result of this attitude a little later. But first I wanted also to say, to to tell a little story in this regard. This is a very famous story in Vraj, which is beautifully depicting this sort of problem which we all have. How innocent it may appear to us in the beginning, and how detrimental it is for our devotional service. This story, perhaps some of you heard this story. The story is that there was a man from Bengal who once came to Vraj. He was a very, gentleman. He was from a very aristocratic family. He was very knowledgeable. His whole life he was practicing devotional service. He was studying, Srimad Bhagavatam. And when he retired, he became a little older. And when he retired from his activities, he was also quite rich. He decided to devote his whole life, the rest of his life, to devotional service. He came to Vraj with all his credentials. And he decided to find some Siddha Mahatma in Vraj and get initiation from him and perform devotional service under the able guidance of the Siddha Mahatma. And finally he found a very elevated devotee in Radhakund who was performing his bhajan. And he was coming to him again and again and again, begging to give him initiation. And this devotee, he immediately caught this little disease. He's proud. He gave up everything, and you may say that he had so many reasons to be a little proud. He was not so much proud, he was a little proud. He was from Brahminical background, he was very knowledgeable, he knew Srimad Bhagavatam practically by heart, he knew everything, his whole life, he led a very clean life. He renounced everything. He came, he wants to something, and but the Siddha Mahatma rejects him again and again and again and again and again. He comes again and begs, please give me initiation. He said, no. He comes again, no. He comes again, he says, bring recommendation from the mentorship system. But anyway, so, ultimately, he comes again to this guru, to this Vaishnava. And this guru says, okay, I'll give you initiation in 1 week. But you have to fulfill one condition of mine. You have to bring with me, within 1 week, somebody or something which is in all respects lower than you. And if you don't bring somebody who is in all respects, totally, completely, in all respects lower than you, then I will not give you initiation. This person, he thought, oh, that's an easy task. Why should I wait for 1 week? I can just take anyone from the street and bring to him. What's the big deal? But anyway, he took it seriously. That was an order of his proposed guru. He took it very seriously, conscientiously. And, initially he thought, let me go to this Bhangi community, to this low-class community of people, sweepers and people like this, living in Vrindavan. And I find somebody, I'll bring him, I'll give him some prasad and he will come to me, So he comes there, he goes there, he sings a little bit, and then he thought, he finds some sweeper. And then he thought, I can bring this guy to him, but is he really in all respects lower than me? Yeah, I'm more aristocratic, I'm perhaps more renounced, this and that, but this guy, his whole life he was living in Vraj. And his whole life he's taking the smell of Vraj, of the dust of Vrindavan, in his nostrils. And he's, no, this will not work, I need to find somebody else. So he's looking for somebody else, and he chooses this. Then he says, maybe I can bring some animal to him. Animals are definitely much lower than myself. And then he says, I'll bring some cow to him. Yeah. But then, no, it doesn't work, Cow is better than me, because cow is just, giving milk without even expecting. Cow is better than me. He says, dog. But then he says, no, dog is... Let's be sure. Let's find somebody who's really lower in all respects. For 1 week, he is engaged in this intense meditation. He practically looks at everyone whom he sees and tries to compare, and somehow or other, by the mercy of his guru, he sees that he is better than me in this respect, or in this respect, or in this respect. Ultimately the whole week passed. He couldn't find anyone. He goes in the morning and answers the call of nature, and he sees his own stool. And he gets a brilliant idea. Why don't I bring my stool to him? Obviously, it's lower than me in all respects. But then, then he thinks, it won't be so nice if I bring my stool to him, because basically it's my own creation. I ate some nice prasadam, and this is what I made out of this prasadam. And then he sees a little worm crawling out from the stool. And he feels, that's it. I will bring this little worm, because this worm cannot be better than myself. And then he again starts singing, and then he says, I ate nice prasadam, I turned it into stool. This worm will eat this abominable stool and will turn it into something nice. He is definitely better than myself. So he comes in complete desperation to his guru. He offers dandavat. He says, my dear Guru Maharaj, I couldn't find anyone who is lower than me in all respects. Guru Maharaj says, okay, now you are ready for initiation. Only now, because real devotional service starts when you have this attitude. Before that, as Lord Kapila speaks in this verse, our devotional service is vidambanam. And vidambanam, archa vidambanam, or whatever we do, it may be japa vidambanam, or it may be kirtan vidambanam, or shravanam vidambanam. Vidambanam, here Srila Prabhupada translates it as imitation, but vidambanam also means pretense. So, what Lord Kapila Dev here wants to say to us, and this is very important because this is the result of this haughtiness or this arrogance which we may have. I mean, very innocent arrogance. Again, I want to stress it. Because for ourselves it may seem very innocent, well, I don't do anything bad to this person. The Lord who is in our heart sees our devotional service. If we manifest this attitude as vidambanam, and as I said, vidambanam means pretense. And the result of such attitude is that our pretense grows more and more and more. And we may notice it within our heart because we commit offense. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, explaining this verse, he says that because of this offense, because of this a slightly offensive attitude towards other living entities, because we are not totally, completely respectful towards other living entities. Because of this, our devotional service becomes sankochita. Sankochita means it becomes withdrawn in itself. The devotional service loses its potency. We heard so many times, holy name is so potent. Yeah, but it just doesn't manifest its potency for us. Why? Because of the offense, sankochita. It just withdraws its power, and then it blocks something. This attitude in which we perform devotional service blocks the power of devotional service. It deprives the devotional service, the activities of devotional service, of its natural power. So, Archa Vidambanam basically means that when we perform devotional service with such an attitude, very soon we will notice the hypocrisy within our heart. We will see, because we don't get the reciprocation from the Lord because of our devotional service. We need some other sort of satisfaction, and we try to derive the satisfaction from devotional service by being proud that I'm performing this devotional service. And in this way we perform devotional service not for the sake of devotional service, we perform devotional service because others will say, oh, he's such a nice devotee. Oh, he's worshipping the deity so nicely, and he's dressing the deity so nicely. And he's chanting so nicely, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We perform devotional service, but we're hypocritical. Why we perform devotional service? Because we want appreciation of others. And if nobody sees us, just look at yourself and compare the quality of your glorious japa when you're chanting with other devotees and when you chant alone. We will not disclose this. We're not here to bring out the dirty laundry of every one of us. But, sometimes when we're alone, when we're with others, we are really Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Do they see how nicely I chant? Do they appreciate it? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And of course, chanting is not such a spectacular activity, but when it comes to kirtan, sometimes we try to jump, and we're jumping very high, and do they see how ecstatic I am? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And so many other things can be there. We're doing this, and we're all alone, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, okay, what is there on the Google? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. It's different. If there is even slight difference of what we're doing alone and what we're doing while we're in public, it means vidambanam. Vidambanam means we're hypocrites. And this hypocritical attitude will grow because there is this original root cause of our hypocrisy. That is avagya. Not hypocritical, but the disrespectful attitude towards others. And as I said, this is the first stage of disease. At this stage of disease, it's easy to catch. If you understand that this is a problem and you try to rectify it by really, as Prabhupada says, Prabhupada gives a very important advice here. He says, a devotee should try to understand everything in relationship with Krishna. Basically what Prabhupada says, that endeavor at this stage, when we feel that there is this problem, we should immediately, when we see somebody who is lower than us, when we see that somebody is lower than us, immediately we should catch ourselves and we should immediately see the connection of this particular person with Krishna. And if he is connected with Krishna, how is he lower? He's a part of God. How is he lower than us? He's the manifestation of God. And if we see this material nature and we see this material nature is connected with God, how we can exploit this material nature? It's worshipable. This attitude which Lord Kapila Dev will repeat many times, even after these verses, he will explain to us that everything is the object of worship for us, not the object of exploitation. Even subtle exploitation when we look down at these things. So Prabhupada, he gives a very nice advice. If we caught ourselves in this attitude, we should again try to bring to our consciousness that this is connected with God. Anyway, let's go further. Our time is running. I only described the first stage. Anyway, the second stage, in the second verse, in the 22nd verse, it is explained by Lord Kapila Dev. It is specifically, it doesn't say, this word doesn't, one who worships the deity of Godhead in the temple, but does not know that the Supreme Lord as Paramatma is situated in every living entity's heart, must be in ignorance and is compared to one who offers oblations into ashes. Here the word which is used by Lord Kapila Dev, hitva, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, as well as Jiva Goswami says that this is the attitude which is called upeksha in Sanskrit. And upeksha, what is the second stage of this disease of pride or or envy? Because ultimately pride and envy is the same thing. It's the same. So he says upeksha means, hitva means you want to avoid somebody. When the envy becomes stronger in your heart. When it's just little haughtiness in your heart, you can associate with this person and you can even be pleasant to him and you say, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. At heart you harbor this attitude, I'm better than him, but at the same time you're associating with him, this and that. But then when the envy in the heart becomes stronger, you just want to avoid this person. You don't want to see his face. You see him from far away and you just turn yourself and go in a different direction. You just don't want to go close to him. And you explain to yourself that, I'm okay. I don't do anything to him. I just don't want to see his face. That's the only problem. And it's better if he is somewhere else, better in South Africa or somewhere else. Or if he doesn't leave this place, I will go to South Africa. Upeksha basically means you want to avoid this person, you don't want to see him, you just because just by seeing him you feel that something is, some very unpleasant feeling manifest in your heart and you feel, how I can be such a and he calls himself a devotee. This is just too much. He's such a pretender. It's not him as a pretender, you are a pretender. Because you allowed this disease to come to the second stage. You consciously justifying yourself that, he's bad. And at the same time, you're justifying this attitude. You says, yeah, he did something wrong. He did something wrong to me. That may be. The Lord is still in his heart. And Lord Kapila Dev says, as I promised to you, there will be 4 stages of disease and 4 subsequent results. Lord Kapila Dev in this particular verse says that the result of such an attitude, even if there is one person to whom you harbor such an attitude, that you don't like him, you don't want to see him, you just want to avoid him as much as possible, and he's a devotee at the same time. Or even if he's not a devotee, if you harbor this sort of attitude, then the result of it, as Lord Kapila Dev says, basmani va juhoti sah, you Modiat, he says, such a stupid fellow. He calls such a person stupid, Modiat. And he says, the result which he gets is the same result as a stupid person who pours ghee into the ashes. We know that this is a powerful, it's maybe not the example appropriate to us because we pour ghee into the fire and still don't get any results. We know yagya sacrifice doesn't have so much result nowadays, but he gives this example to somebody who is used to efficiency of fire sacrifice. But he says, if you're so stupid and you pour ghee into the ashes, you will not get any results. So basically what he says, that if you have such an attitude, your devotional service will have 0 result. Shunya. What happens in this case, and we sometimes feel it, don't we? Sometimes we feel it, I chant and I chant and I chant and I chant, and what is the result? 0. No result. I'm just more or less running in the same place, like in the gym, in this machine. You're running and running and running, and where you are, you didn't move. You're in the same place. We're doing and doing and doing devotional service. Lord Kapila Dev says that's the result of this attitude. If you don't consciously try to understand, as Prabhupada explains, that everyone is connected with the Supreme Lord, and therefore he's worthy of my respect. The respect may manifest differently. I don't have, in one of the previous verses, Srila Prabhupada says, you have to respect every living entity and you have to worship every living entity. He says, it doesn't mean that you have to embrace the tiger. If somebody has this tiger nature, you may respect him from a safe distance. But you still respect him. The distance may be there. There is nothing wrong with the distance. What is wrong is the attitude of hatred, which is on the second stage. And I saw so many people who have this sort of attitude, and they more or less leave the devotional service because they don't feel that this is efficient. Nothing happens, no progress. So let's go quickly because we're really late. But just in a few words, I will explain the problem with this two other verses, or described in two other verses. So first is avagya, second is upeksha. The third one is ninda. Ninda, just a little story, just a very short story. There was one devotee I know, in connection, illustrated this second attitude. He had this nature, and he was worshipping the Lord. He had his own personal deity, Shalagram Shila, and he was worshipping very conscientiously, trying to do everything, but at the same time, he didn't change this attitude towards others. And ultimately, he came to me. He committed a very severe crime. And he came to me and he said, this devotional service doesn't work. I was worshipping him very nicely. I was doing everything, 16 upachar, this and that. I was doing everything. I was praying to him, please, 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 please. But there was no reply. There was no answer. So that's exactly what Lord Kapila Dev says. If somebody has this attitude towards other living entities, there will be no answer from myself. You will perform your devotional service. Nothing will happen. Anyway, very quickly, the two more stages of this disease of envy. The third stage, which is practically impossible to cure, as much as it is practically impossible to cure the third stage of cancer. The third stage is called dvesha. And Lord Kapila Dev, he literally says, dvishatach parakayamam. If somebody is dvishatach, if somebody is really envious or, really hateful towards others, he is, and he gives the result of this. He says, such a person, if he actively hates, again, first is just little haughtiness. Then second stage is just, you just don't want to see this person, you avoid him. The third stage, you actively hate this person. And hate this person basically means you want that something bad will happen with him. You really want. And sometimes you even pray, my dear Lord, let him understand. I'm not saying it for myself, but let him understand that, he's not a devotee. Do something. Show to him that he cannot do this to me. I had one example. There was one very famous preacher in Russia, devotee, still is. He was in ISKCON, not in ISKCON anymore. And went away, but, manifesting his prowess. When there was this court case against Bhagavad Gita, against ISKCON in Tomsk, you all probably know about this. This person publicly in the internet says, this is Krishna is punishing them because they offended me. And they will suffer because of this. See, this is the active dvesha within the heart, active hate. Let them be bad, but, they will understand that they did something wrong to me. And Krishna says, Kapila Dev says, very importantly, that as a result of such an attitude, what one can get, such a separatist. Separatist means he doesn't understand that if somebody suffers, if somebody, gets something wrong or some suffering, he doesn't feel for himself. Separatist means somebody is suffering and I don't feel that he's suffering. I'm happy that he's suffering. This is the hatred. And he says, such a separatist will never find peace, will never attain peace. That's the result of such an attitude. You will always, if you have, and I'm sure we all have this experience, if somebody inflicted some pain to us and we developed this sort of hatred towards him, we can only think about this person. We chant Hare Krishna, we think about whom? About him. Or about her. And he did this, and he said this. Why did he say this? And we cannot just stop it. The mind is totally agitated. It's always goes in the mind. And you try to, very loudly chant Hare Krishna, but the mind is more loud. No peace. Because the hatred is there. And that's why I said it's practically impossible to control. With the first and second stage, you can control it. By conscious endeavor, you understand, no, something is wrong. I'm doing something wrong. I have to respect this person. He's a devotee, this and that. But with this, it's too late. This is what is happening. And Lord Kapila Dev says, no peace. And can you perform devotional service if there is no peace? Can you think about Krishna if there is no peace? No, you cannot. No peace. It's just, you're totally disturbed. And then there is the fourth stage. What is the fourth stage? What is worse than hatred? Can you say to me? Yeah. When you manifest your hatred in a visible way, and the most dangerous visible way how you manifest your hatred is you blaspheme the devotee, if you insult the devotee. The hatred means you keep it for yourself. You may not manifest it. The hatred is there within the heart. It's burning within. But you may not manifest it actively. But when it comes to ninda, finally, the hatred comes out from your heart. And you say everything which you think about this devotee, and you pray, and at the same time you feel, I am right. I have all reasons to say this. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying the truth. Lord Kapila Dev says the result of this ninda, this offense, this blasphemy, the result is this, that, he says, I am never pleased with this devotional service, and basically the result which we may feel if we do this to others, and which we sometimes feel, is that Krishna doesn't exist. He just disappears. Sometimes when we are in the right consciousness, we perform devotional service, we feel he's somewhere. He's somewhat pleased. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, and there is some connection. Here he says in the 24th verse, he says, if somebody does this, I'm never pleased, I completely turn away my face from such a person. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, while explaining this, he says, if somebody blasphemes others, if somebody blasphemes the devotees, it's the worst kind of violence. Sometimes we may feel, what is wrong? I just said something. What is wrong? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes, and Jiva Goswami as well, quotes the verse from 11th canto, where it is said that if you shoot the arrow in somebody, the pain which you inflict will last 2-3 days, in the worst case, maybe a week. If you shoot the arrows of your insulting words, the pain which you cause to such a living entity will be with this living entity for years and years and years, And after so many years, he will be dying and he will remember the pain which you inflicted to him. He says that the arrows of insulting words is much worse than the real arrows. And the example of this we all know, Draupadi, she just laughed a little bit and she said, like father, like son. Duryodhan, he just fell in some pool of water, being little envious, and Draupadi started laughing and laughing. Like father, like son. Because of this, the whole war broke. Because of this little laughter. Duryodhana was remembering this all the time. We may forget the pain when we sleep. The pain which is inflicted by the insults, you will remember in the sleep. All the time, it's there. It's so painful. Duryodhana was so insulted. Of course, we know in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam it is said that Maharaj Yudhishthira was trying to stop Draupadi, but Krishna encouraged him. He said, yes, please do it. It's okay. It was according to the plan of Krishna, but the point is that, we have to really understand how much pain we can inflict to other living entities by insulting them. And therefore Krishna says, Kapila Dev here says, I don't want to have anything to do with such a person. If his ignorance is of this stage, that he justifies his blasphemy of other people by some reason or another, I don't want to have anything to do with this, and he is condemned because I turned away from them. So that's the 4 stages of disease, the problem which we all have, one way or another. We all have this enmity in our heart towards others, but at least in the beginning we can check it to a certain extent. We should never allow ourselves or justify ourselves, because there are so many justifications we may have to bring it to the 3rd or 4th stage. At least first 2 stages are okay. But then Lord Kapila Dev will give a very beautiful solution to this, which may seem, superficially may seem contradictory to what he says. But it's beautiful, and I wanted to share it with you, how it works. So this is, that's it. Thank you very much.